Hello everyone, this is the Rethink podcast, and here we have is your Malik and myself, Raheem Sandiford, and we're going to be discussing the topic of starting a business.
Yes, starting a business.
Yeah. So, just a little background on before we get into the questions. Israel here is the Chief Creative. Chief Creative of Ideas Creative Inc. He started his business himself, so I thought he would be the prime person to kind of ask these sort of questions.
Hopefully. We'll see.
Yeah. So getting into it, what are the main challenges that come with starting a business, especially in the Caribbean?
Main challenges of starting a business, you have to know what you want to do, like how you're going to get into the business, what the market is. Market challenges are always...
Yeah.
Main challenges when starting a business, you kind of have to know the market you're getting into. You have to know the challenges you're going to face, who your client will be, and who the competitors are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to understand these things. And do you have something to offer, a unique perspective as a business person? That's a very critical aspect because where do you fit in the market? Are you the big player? Are you the small player? Are you the medium-sized player? What is the specific service that you can offer that fills a gap? So it might be a case of looking at the customer needs and then deciding, well, I'm going to offer this service that has not been offered as yet. You know, there's a gap in the market. For example, in Barbados, people often sell cars at the side of the road. You know, they put the car beside on the boat or by the intersection, the junction, and they put a for sale sign on it. You know, is there a better way to do that?
To go about
selling cars.
Yeah.
You know, that could be a market entry point for someone looking to start a business. Oftentimes we go into business and say, I want to do X. And that might be fine. But a different approach might be to take the customer-centric approach where you look at the market and say, what are the specific needs that the market has? And what can I do with what within my skill set can help to meet those needs. Mm-hmm. So that's a big question you have to ask yourself when you're starting. Another challenge when starting business is making sure that you, like we spoke about on the last podcast, pricing your services properly, knowing the value of the service you're going to bring to the market and pricing that appropriately.
Right, yeah. So obviously there's certain areas in which you have to pay attention to, right? And you know, sometimes it can be a little difficult to kind of piece together what is the first steps that, say, someone like you would have to make. Like, so when you were starting your business, what were the first, like for instance, what were the first steps that you took or that should anybody take when starting their business?
Right. Okay. Well, get your business registered in wherever you are, whichever country you're in, make sure to get it registered with the relevant authorities. So knowing the process to register your business is important. Here in Barbados, you go to corporate affairs, you make sure your business is either registered as a trading as business name, or it's incorporated as a company, or the different levels of incorporation. Know the type of business you offer. And getting a business advisor can be a helpful step as well, because sometimes you may not know what to do. Somebody who is more experienced in business in your field or another field may be able to help you. Utilizing the business support services of entities like business support organizations, such as youth entrepreneurship scheme, the BYDT, even the Small Business Association. There are services that these entities offer to help small businesses, micro businesses get started, and they could be helping you in terms of planning your business plan and knowing how to get certain things done. And there are other consultants as well too that can assist with those things. So knowing who to go to, but you start with corporate affairs, getting the business name registered. One of the worst things you can do as a business owner is have a business you're operating under a name that isn't registered. Everyone knows you by that name, and then when you go to the corporate registry, someone else has that name, and then you have to change it.
You got to rebrand, and that comes with costs
and everything,
and
then you
can
come to me to get your business rebranded. But hopefully you got it branded the right way the first time. But you want to make sure that you put those ducks in a row first. So you make sure you have your business registered. Have an accountant, or somebody you can call on for accounting advice. Make sure that you have a plan for your business. Where do you see your business in a year? Where do you see your business in 5 years? When people see a business plan, they think of this intimidating 100-page document. A business plan should really be a dynamic document that works for you and that can be updated as time goes on. Start with a simple one-page document. This is my business. There's these services I'm looking to offer, like a brief paragraph about the business. The services I'm looking to offer, where do I want my business to go, and how will it get there?
Mm-hmm.
The how will it get there is the mission, the steps to get to where you're going. Where I want my business to go is the vision. Like you said, the vision should be this big picture goal, like Star Trek, to boldly go where no man has gone before. Like well, if someone has gone there, then obviously it's not somewhere no one has gone before. So you're constantly chasing that vision. The vision should be something you're constantly chasing. So set those things in place, write them down, take the time to do that, and look at the resources that you're going to need. Can you do everything yourself, or do you need people to help you in your business? Do you need others to assist you? Other skill sets, complementary skill sets, people who do the same thing as you so you can build up capacity. All of these things you need to consider when you're building a business and starting a business.
Yeah, so also one thing to add to the business plan is like what was your minimum viable product?
Right,
stuff like that.
If you have a product-oriented business.
If you have a product-oriented business. But I think it was like, mainly what is the main thing that you're offering?
Right.
So,
well, the minimum, and then to that, you can take that from the perspective of what are the minimum amount of things you need to get started.
Right.
When I started my business, all I needed was a laptop and a cell phone and an internet connection.
Yeah.
That was what I needed to start. I did not have to have an office back then. It was just me, and I could sit down in a cafe. And many a time I did that. I was at a cafe, a hotel lobby, order some, loaded fries, and I spent the morning there doing work. So you can get stuff started like that. And knowing what your business is your business a product-oriented business, or is your business a service-oriented business? And then services business have different needs to product-oriented businesses as well. So where you are, what you're doing, and how you're doing is very important. You have to consider those things.
Yeah, so this question is more geared towards the service-based businesses, but how should a new business go about getting clients? Like, what avenues should they do? What first steps should they take? What is it that they need to follow through on to get new clients?
Purposeful networking is definitely, and I put purposeful there on purpose. Oftentimes, and in these COVID times, that's a little more tricky because, but you can still meet people. But purposeful networking, getting to know people who can benefit you and you can benefit them. That's important. How networking has been done in the past, and how I hate when people do networking, is they come to get business out of you. They're talking to you, and the first thing they're doing is like, "Hey, how you doing? Okay, here's my card," and they stick their card in your hand. It's like, whoa, stop.
Yeah.
For me, it's a case of let's have a conversation. Let us get to know who each other are. Does that make grammatical sense? get to know the other person.
Yeah.
And see what kind of perspectives they have. Like, is this the type of person I want to work with? Am I the type of person they want to work with? Build a connection first. So that at the end of the day, the person is asking you for your card rather than you trying to force it in their hand. Because they see a value in you where they're like, oh, hey, can I, your card or your contact information? Okay, some people might say nowadays that cards are not really a thing, but get it so that you are interesting enough, or you have enough of a perspective that the person is asking for your contact details, rather than you trying to give them and they're trying to run away. And I have to go to the bar, I have to go to the bathroom, and they're trying to get away from you, and you're trying to give them your information. So networking is definitely important. Getting new business. Maybe you can start by, for example, in a services business, I'll use our industry. Create a portfolio. You may not have clients, but create a portfolio and put it up online of work that you would like to do, the type of work you would like to do.
Yeah.
There's nothing to say that because it's not a real client, it's not real work.
Yeah.
It does showcase your creative skills. It will show people what you're capable of. It will show what your design perspective is. So put up work that is as real as possible.
Yeah, and that helps to bring in the type of clients that you would like to have. Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Pair that with the right pricing, and you're in a good place. Also, this one is a little trickier, but if you see a product or a service like a business that does not have good branding, you can approach them and say, well, hey, I saw your branding, I like your product, I want to work with you to develop your branding. And you might do that through actually directly contacting the individual, or maybe doing, which is the tricky part, like a what if post. Like, what if this business rebranded, what it would look like? And you have to be very careful in your post description about this is not an actual client, but we're just doing some exploration to see what this could be. But that kind of thing, I think those sorts of tactics, those sorts of strategies, and there are others, but just a few of them off the top of my head can be helpful for people looking to start a business.
Yeah. So, so you talked about the branding side of things, like making sure you have the right branding and that you're registered for the most part. And I think that might be something that people might overlook. Yeah, especially. So you have to like making sure you're in connection with places like Kaipo as well.
Yeah, with the corporate registry.
Yeah, corporate registry, right?
Which is corporate affairs and intellectual property.
Yeah, making sure you're connected to places like that. But the thing that I'm trying to look at here is also like, is the Caribbean market big enough to sustain new businesses?
Yeah.
Like,
in the Caribbean basin alone, there are 42 million people.
Yeah.
Which might mean, however, that you gotta learn a couple extra languages, because the majority of those people either speak Spanish or French. You have Haiti and the Dominican Republic, which make up a tremendous amount, and Cuba, which make up a tremendous amount of that 42 million. But Jamaica has 3.1 or 3.2 million people. Trinidad has 1.3 million people. Guyana has, I think, 780 something thousand people. Barbados has about 300,000 people. And when we start to add up these numbers, we can see the Caribbean is a big region. Dominican Republic, I think the whole island with Santo Domingo and Haiti, and which is DR and Haiti, has about 22 million people. Cuba has, I think, about 11 million people. Learn to speak a foreign language. Which is me preaching to myself, but be able to converse in another language, do business in another language, or have a contact that can be a trusted contact that can be an intermediary between you and another country speaking in another language. But definitely, there is room in the Caribbean for new business. And again, it's about finding your niche, finding the service or the product that you can offer to a specific market. So it's about, instead of just build it and they will come, which is the way people used to do business before, where it's just like, oh, I do graphics, so I'm going to open my graphic shop, I'm going to turn on my computer and sit by my phone, and business is going to come my way.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that.
It does not work like that. I don't even want to say anymore. I'm not even sure it has ever worked like that, but be purposeful and intentional about looking to see, here is a corner of the market that is underserved. How can I serve that corner of the market? Here is a service that's not really offered. Is it motion graphics? Is it Instagram carousels? Is it real videos? What is the market looking for, and where are the holes that you can fill?
A lot of that will require some research on your part, in terms of like that. Trying to pay attention to what, as you had to put in, gaps there are in the market, So I think in terms of starting a business, you kind of have to be on the ball when it comes to eyeing out potential market gaps or potential ways to make money.
And there's a good way that new designers can do that. Work a year in your industry. When you work a year in your industry, you're purposeful about that year. You're not just there to just have fun, but you're there to say, okay, I'm going to work for this individual. I'm going to learn all I can. I'm going to try to be in as many meetings as possible, as much as they will let you be in. But show yourself as a type of diligent person. When I was when I was interning with a known agency here, I don't know if we're allowed to.
Yeah, I don't think we should.
But when I was interning with a known agency here, when I was at college, I asked for work. I didn't sit down there and just surf the internet and listen to music. When I was given a task and the task was done, I went and I said, what else do you have for me to do? What else do you have for me to do? I was able to redesign the logo for one of the major hardware companies in Barbados, one major hardware stores in Barbados, working at this agency as an intern. That was one of the biggest achievements for me. Projects that I worked on for a major airline with this company won Addy Awards as an intern.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really impressive.
I was able to apply myself. I was able to ask them for work and say, I am doing this. So you have to be diligent about your work. And that gave me the foundation to learn about the industry, to learn about people in the industry, to learn about how an agency functions and how I would want my own business to function when I start my own business, because I always had intended to start my own business. So that kind of experience, if you go into it purposefully to learn, you can learn a lot about the industry in terms of how it functions. That will be helpful to you getting into the industry.
Yeah. And I would also say to add to your point, like try to whether you're a service based business or a product based business, you should look to get into places like BMX and
yeah, definitely showcasing.
The showcasing thing, like just mainly for networking. That's and it's also a place for new people to interface with your product and or service. Right, so it's like pay attention to those things especially, or even I would say I'm not sure if AgroFest does this. I'm not sure if AgroFest is another one of those spaces for you to show off a new business. But if you're in an
agricultural space,
look at AgroFest, or if you're in the merchandising space, look at AnimeCon. Look at as many kind of opportunities for networking as you can.
Build customer profiles. Like, observe your customers in their natural habitat. Now, this is not like a you sort of show with that guy where he's stalking the woman, but observe your customers in their natural habitat, right? Like, if you know that you want to offer, you want to sell food on the beach, go to the beach. Observe how the people, operate. Observe the other vendors there. So observe when they buy food. Do they buy food when they're going to the beach? Do they buy food when they're leaving the beach? Do they buy food while they're there? Do they buy food do they come and they stay for hours? Do they come and they stay for minutes? What are the peak times during the day? Is it morning? Is it evening? Is it midday? Is it Sundays? Is it Saturdays? Is it bank holidays? What are the peak days? What are the peak times? And when would it best suit you to offer your product or service?
Yeah. Right. So I want to take a little step away from the product-based services or the product-based services, and I focus more on the freelancer side of starting a business. Should freelancers utilize sites like Fiverr and Upwork? In terms of getting clients. So, is there an opportunity or
finish your question.
Is there opportunity or market for say a new design agency to use those services or use those sites?
With those sites, there's always an expectation from the consumer end. With Fiverr, that expectation is literally in the name. Paying $5 for services, that's exactly what it means. So there's an expectation in the name from the consumer side or the client side where they are expecting to pay cheap for your work, right? Some people have used those platforms to their benefit, and kudos to them. I firmly believe that there are better ways to do it. If you go into those platforms, you make sure you read the terms and conditions very carefully. Make sure that you understand what's being asked of you, and that you get clear directions on what the budget of the client is. How are you going to be paid? What's the budget of the client? How many payments are going to be made? You should always have a deposit. Always, 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 for dramatic effect, I said it again, have a deposit made on your work. Those platforms to me are set up for the benefit of the client or the consumer and the customer. They're not set up for the benefit of the service provider. So you are going in at a disadvantage where these platforms are concerned. So me personally, I would not use those platforms. I wouldn't advise anyone to use those platforms as their mainstay. If it is a case where you use it as an additional source of income, something to supplement your income, that's up to you. But don't rely on a Fiverr and an Upwork as this is my mainstay. Someone may choose to challenge me on that, and that's fine. But I don't believe it is the best way to do it.
Yeah, I think that's fair because the general attitude is cheap pay and then cheap design as well. You get cheap quality for the stuff that you pay for. So and I've seen the prices on some stuff that people be doing for Fiverr, and I have to say I don't necessarily think it's 100% sustainable.
It's not. Yeah. It's like a designer here charging like $50 for a logo. It's like ridiculous. So it's the same principle that applies. And see the previous podcast where we talk about pricing.
It's the pricing.
But it's the same principle. There's an expectation then that comes from those platforms that you are going to provide your work for cheap. Right. So you have to be mindful of that expectation. If that's what you want, just have your eyes open going in. Yeah.
Going off of what we just talked about pricing in terms of how you should value your work. There is another side to it, which is the client side, where there might be an expectation of new businesses or new products or new services to price their work for cheap because they're new and they don't have the reputation to back up what they're offering in terms of pricing. So it's like, what should new businesses price their work lower until they reach a reputation or standing that justifies for them raising their prices?
Work is work. Let me ask this question: should a new car be cheaper than an old car? No. Right? When you go to buy a new car, you expect to pay a new car price. No, okay, that's probably a bit of a facetious statement, but I think it opens up a different level of understanding. Someone new to the industry may not come with the experience of someone older, it is true. But they may come with a newer perspective, a different way of doing business that may be beneficial for the times they are in. They may not be seasoned in doing things the old way that someone older in the business may be. Now, if you're smart and you've been in the business that you're in for a while, you should be hiring younger people. You should be thinking about retraining yourself through formal and informal means, and not be myopic and not stay in your older way of doing things. But that's why businesses constantly hire younger people and new people, because they come with different perspectives. They come with a value of having grown up in the time that they're currently in to be able to add to the service of the company. So should a newer person charge less? No, they should charge fairly. They should charge the market rate and the market standard. And that, I think, is fair, because at the end of the day, they have to eat. At the end of the day, they're providing... No, they may have to work harder, and they should work harder, I think, to make sure that people understand that they're bringing value to the market. But at the end of the day, if they're providing the same quality service that someone who's been in the business for 10 years is providing, should they charge less? If their output is going to be of the same or higher or different but not worse value, should they charge less?
Yeah.
It's all about pricing on the value of what's being offered, on the value of the service. And specific to our industry again, designers are designers no matter if you've had 10 years or 1 year or no years in the industry. You are a designer. You've gone through, hopefully, the training necessary to be a designer. And if you're wise, you keep your mind open to what's going on around you. You learn, you're a sponge and you're taking in things. You are allowing the experiences of others, and your own experience to inform your design. So you're not just green, but you are eager, you're learning from experiences of others, and you're pulling that in. And doing research Is it doing research like gaining experience?
Yeah, I think
Research is pulling on the experience of others.
Yeah.
So if you're a young designer and you are able to do proper research, forget how many years you've had in the industry. Like, it doesn't matter if you've had 10 years or one or none, because you're able to do the adequate research for the work. So what you have to do then, though, what you have to put in your work is to show the client that your process, like we mentioned in the last podcast, that your process is sound, your process will deliver results, and that goes back to my earlier point of putting out concept work to show how you work, talking about your perspective, maybe in video shorts or that kind of thing, showing your work so that people can see this person has a perspective. I like how they work, I like what they produce, and then be able to then have a meeting and talk about the client. It might mean being more mature in your appearance, being more mature in your thought processes, being more mature in how you post what you post online. Because if the client is looking at your work, maybe looking at your personal profile as well. So you got to be understanding that you have to show yourself as professional and able to complete the project.
Yeah. And you mentioned posting stuff online. And in this day and age, social media is the center point of all online interaction, right? So it's like, you think it's a necessity for new businesses to kind of grow their clientele online, or is it a necessity? Do you think it's a necessity?
It's a necessity to have an online presence. It's a necessity to build an audience online.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind that what I've realized in Barbados especially is that the audience that designers build is other designers. Our friends, other designers will see our work like, yo, bro, that was dope. You did a really good piece of work there. So it's more, I think, important to talk, not just showcase your work, but showcase your perspective, your thought process. How do you work? What do you think about certain things? And for a young designer as well, the temptation maybe to just go to Instagram or Twitter or something. But LinkedIn is a tremendous resource.
Yes.
Business people are on LinkedIn. So as a young designer, get yourself, you may have a friend who's a photographer, get your friend to do some really good, professional photos for you. Right? Not just you in a t-shirt, it's a collar. Get yourself a professional. Even if t-shirt is your professional wear, that is the best t-shirt you can put on. The best quality t-shirt. And get yourself some professional headshots done, professional photos, and get yourself a business LinkedIn. Yeah. Have a business perspective. Read articles on LinkedIn, share articles on LinkedIn, not just doing it superficially, but doing it to learn. Search for creative resources, buy creative books and read them. Look for creative channels online and follow them. Because when people see you, they may look and see who you follow, what you've liked, those sorts of things. And when you read, you have content to post.
Yeah.
If you read Simon Sinek or Chris Do or a lot of other creative resources, watch their videos, read their books, then you start to develop a perspective. You start to frame your mind and shape your mind that you come up with things that you can post. You can post snippets from them and quote them, and that says a lot about you. When you find something quotable in their work, somebody might think, I like what this person is thinking, I like what they find interesting, and then they will be drawn to you. That is a way that you can use inbound marketing by putting up content to draw people to you. Yeah. So rather than saying, hey, I'm a designer, hire me, you tell people, hey, this is what I think about, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I value. And then they can say, well, that kind of aligns with my values too. I like your thought process, let's have a conversation.
Right, yeah. So we're coming on to the end of the podcast, and I think we talked about a lot of things, but I think we can generally summarize a couple things for when you're starting a business, or things to look out for when you're starting a business. That should be making sure your business is registered.
Yep.
Right. Making sure you have a portfolio of your work and or product.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Because that's the first thing clients are going to interface with.
Yeah. Have you done it before?
Or have
What's your success rate?
Exactly. In terms of getting new clients or getting new sales for your product, networking, going to places like BMAX and Girls Expo or any other place that can, or I would say 10 Habitat might help with that as well. It's like help get people to interface with your product or your service, right? So they can get form an opinion, and then they can go on to tell others about it if it's a good product or service. And another thing is, if you are uncertain about starting your business because you think you might not get enough clients or you might not get enough sales, do it, because the market, as you pointed out, is big enough to sustain new businesses and new growth and stuff like that. And for designers specifically, stay away from sites like Fiverr.
I did not say stay away from sites like Fiverr. I said be very, very cautious, be very careful. I wouldn't do it. But if you do it, know why you're doing it.
Oh yeah, know what you're doing.
Use it.
Yeah.
Use it. Don't let it use you.
Right. Yeah. And then lastly, try to have an online presence, because I think a lot of new businesses in this day and age benefit a lot when they have an online presence or they have some sort of following. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that just summarizes everything that we talked about.
And there were like 3 questions that people are going to go through in their head when they're looking to hire someone or work with someone. Can they do the work?
Right, yeah.
Do I like them? And is it the right time for them to do it? You know, and if you can confidently answer those 3 questions in the client's mind, then you should be good to go.
Yeah. So that is all for the podcast, and thank you guys for listening or for staying as long as you did. If you have any questions that you would like us to answer in the next podcast, feel free to comment in the comment section below, and we'll get to it in next time.
Yeah.
So that's
Remember
all.
to like the comment, like the podcast, share the podcast, and we'll see you again.
All right. Have a good day.